A person who wants to cross over the ghastly ocean of material suffering can do so very easily by taking shelter of the boat of the Bhagavad Gita. So this ocean is known as Samsara Sagara. Sagara means ocean, and Samsara means misery. This ocean of material misery, which is basically the birth and death, and birth and death, birth, old age, disease, death, birth, old age, disease, death, the cycle of changing bodies for many, many, many lifetimes. And we will begin with this prayer. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And we will recap what we covered yesterday, chapter 9. It was entitled The Most Confidential Knowledge. In this chapter, we talked about how bhakti and knowing about Krishna is the topmost of all knowledge. So, we talked about different processes of yoga, and some of those processes did not focus so much on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like Karma Yoga. Jnana Yoga, yes, it talks about one aspect, which is the Brahman aspect, but this is the Bhagavan aspect. So then after that, there was Dhyana, which spoke about the Paramatma aspect of God. And now we have the Bhagavan aspect of God, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So chapter 7 onwards, it was the focus shifted towards the personality of Godhead. But chapter 9 clearly defines it very nicely. So it states that this is the Raja Vidyam, the king of knowledge. And it was also Raja Guhyam, the most secret of all secrets. So what was this Raja Guhyam and what was this Raja Vidyam and Raja Guhyam? So the understanding was Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is Achintya, inconceivable. He has inconceivable powers. So he has a beautiful form, but at the same time, he has inconceivable powers with which he can do almost opposite things, paradoxical things. Like he creates the entire world, and as Paramatma, he's everywhere, but yet all the material creation is not in him. So like that, this kind of achintya. So we heard about this yesterday. And basically knowing Krishna. So getting to know Krishna in more detail about his Shakti, about himself, right? But it was not full, it was just about 5 verses. And in chapter 10, he will go deeper about revealing himself. So then we talked about the goal of all yoga, prayojan, which is basically understanding that Krishna is the Ishvara Parama Krishna. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So then we spoke a bit more about how this is the king of knowledge, glorification of all this. And finally, Krishna recommends from 925 to 934, he talks about practical aspects about the devotional path, the Bhakti Marga. So these were the topics which we covered in chapter 9. So to continue, so the takeaway, basically, I'd like to summarize it easily for you so that you can remember chapter 9 for what are the key points. So the key takeaway points are, this is number 1, Raja Vidyam, Raja Guhyam, the king of knowledge, the most secret of all knowledge, and that is understanding Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is the point, knowing Achintya Krishna, Prayojan. And Bhakti Marg, more details on the Bhakti Marg, and that is the preferred process. Because only those who are in the Bhakti Marg can truly understand Bhagavan aspect. Right? We talked about that yesterday. So today, we are doing chapter 10, day 10, so chapter 10, and it's entitled The Opulence of the Absolute. So previously, we heard about the Absolute. We heard about Krishna, which was the prayojan, the goal, right? But now we want to know what is the greatness of this Absolute. What are in what way is he opulent? What are his different mystic powers? How? So all these things we will hear today. More about this. More about the Absolute. That Absolute is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So in Sanskrit, it is also titled Vibhuti Yoga. So what is Vibhuti? Vibhuti is not the ash. It has two meanings. One meaning is the ash that worshippers of Lord Shiva will apply. So that is Vibhuti. It's like a tilak, right? Whereas Vibhuti also has another meaning, and Vibhuti means also manifestation. That means it is like something like avatar, but it's not avatar. It's just a analogy. It's like an example of an analogy. So I'll speak more about this. So we will see basically Krishna has many, many, many powers. It's not possible to describe the extent of all his mystical powers, right? His energy and everything. So therefore, he gives a summary understanding just to give us a notion of what his abilities are, what his mystical powers are, right? So that is called Vibhuti. So why is he talking about this? Because when he speaks about the Vibhuti, he will actually give us some practical examples, which is very much known to us. So why he's doing that is so that whenever we remember these examples, we will remember Krishna. For example, I give you a short example. Krishna says, I am the taste in water. We talked about it in chapter 9, right? But that's not really a Vibhuti. But similarly, so whenever we drink water, when we are extremely very thirsty, we can remember Krishna. So like that, in a more apparent manner, Krishna is now going to help Arjuna to remember Krishna. Because previously also in chapter 8, we understood that remembering Krishna is the point of existence. Because whatever we remember at the time of death, that we will attain. And if we want to go to the spiritual world, we should remember the Supreme Lord. And how to do this? So that has a lifetime of practice. And these are ways, practical ways Krishna is going to give us how to remember him. So it begins with verse 1. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Bhuya Eva Mahabaho Shrinu Me Paramam Vachaha Yatte Aham Priya Manaya Vakshyami Hitakham Yaya. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, listen again, O mighty armed Arjuna, because you are my dear friend. For your benefit, I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained. Now, how to understand this? Because previously the chapter was entitled The King of Knowledge. And remember, there was one verse where Krishna said that there is nothing more for you to understand, Arjuna. This is the end of all knowledge. So, sorry, he didn't say end of all knowledge. He said it's the highest. There is nothing further. So the understanding here is he has come to the topmost yoga. There is no other yoga higher than that. So the vertical climb is already reached its pinnacle. But now, there is vertical growth and there is horizontal growth. So though we have reached the topmost level, we have not begun to explore the full dimension of that level. That means we have reached the top, but we are just seeing a short distance. So we have not fully explored that. It's like going to the 10th floor. You have gone to the first floor, second floor, third floor, and then we reach the 10th floor. We have understood that this is the highest, but we have not even stepped out of the lift. We are just looking at the lift. We can see outside and everything, but we have not explored fully the 10th floor. So that is what it means here. So now Krishna is going to speak further about the same topmost bhakti, right? But he's going to give deeper and more intimate knowledge. Now we are stepping out of the 10th floor, right? We are now going to go to the main rooms, the main rooms within that floor. So like that. So I shall now give you knowledge that is better than what I have already explained. That means he's going to give deeper knowledge, more intimate knowledge. So Before we go further to that conversation, here we want to just slightly digress a little, and focus on this word, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. So we have many times come across this statement, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. So, and then we know that Sri Bhagavan here refers to Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? So what is this? Why is Sri Bhagavan referred to Krishna? So here we want to give you a definition of what is Bhagavan. This is mentioned in the Vishnu Purana. So there is a verse. This verse is spoken by Parashara Muni, the father of Vyasadeva. Aishwaryasya samagrasya viryasya yasasha shriya jnana vairagya yos chaiva sanam bhaga itingana. So bhaga means opulence. So what is bhaga? Just like dharma one, or someone who likes to give lots of charity, you add the word one to it, it becomes charitable person, dharma one. So like that, bhaga one. So bhaga means one who has everything, one who possesses everything. But here that everything is basically categorized into 6 things. So sanam bhaga itingana. So what are these 6 things? So the definition of Bhagavan is these things. So Bhagavan means samagrasya. The word samagrasya means that he has these 6 things, not in some quantity, not in half quantity, but in the fullest quantity possibly imagined. That means these 6 things that he is going to have, he has them to the maximum limit. Nobody has one of these things also to that extent of which Krishna has them. So what are these 6 things? Like for example, okay, never mind. Like for example, we can say the first one, Aishwarya. What is Aishwarya? Aishwarya basically means wealth, fortune. It can mean wealth, it can mean fortune, right? Luck. So all these things is Aishwarya. Opulence. So some people in this world will have some opulence. There are, rich people, and then there are even richer people, then there are millionaires, then there are billionaires, right? So like that. But none of these billionaires can say that they have all the wealth in this world, that they own everything to the maximum. They have some portion of it. That's it, right? So samagrasya means that in full, there's no portion, it's in full. So someone who has these 6 opulences in full, he is called Bhagavan. And the only person who qualifies for that sentence is Lord Sri Krishna. So one is Aishwarya, right? Viryasya. Try to see if you can recognize some of these Sanskrit words, right? Aishwarya, we all know because of one person. And then Viryasya. Virya, the root word here is Virya. In Tamil also we have this word. Yasa may not be so apparent. Shriya. So Shreya, we have this name Shreya. So like that, what does that mean? And Jnana, we have heard this word before. And Vairagya. So some of us may also know this word. So let's explore these things one by one. Okay. So Krishna is known as Sarva Karana Karanam. So the cause of all causes. So that is what the verses 10.3 to 6 is going to talk about. Okay. So Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. So what are these qualifications of that Bhagavan? So first was Aishwarya, because he possesses the greatest opulence. And not only the greatest opulence, all opulence, right? So we know that the Supreme Lord, who is his consort? His consort in Vaikuntha Loka is Lakshmi, isn't it? And Lakshmi is none other than the goddess of fortune. And she is always serving Narayana, right? But that's for Vaikuntha Loka. But we understand in Goloka Vrindavan, in Krishna's abode in the spiritual world, the spiritual abode of Krishna is called Goloka Vrindavan. It's the topmost planet in the Vaikuntha sky. So over there, Krishna is served by not just one Lakshmi, he is served by millions of Lakshmis. So there are millions of Lakshmis, Sahasra Lakshmi. So there is a verse, Lord Brahma says in the Brahma Samhita, Chintamani Prakarashatma Sulkalpa Vriksha Lakshmi Sahasra Satasam Brahma Sevyamanam. So Lakshmi Sahasra Satasam, Lakshmi Sahasra. Lakshmi Sahasra. Sahasra means thousands and thousands of Lakshmis are serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Govinda Madhipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. So that Govinda who is being served by millions of Lakshmi in that spiritual abode of Goloka Vrindavan, to that Govinda I give my respectful obeisances. Lord Brahma prays like that. Okay, so that's Aishwarya. So even when he came in the, even in all his incarnations, his all the pastimes that he has shown unlimited opulences. So that is Krishna's speciality. Therefore, he is Bhagavan. What else? He is also Virya because he shows the greatest power. Now, Krishna, in his many, many incarnations, has killed some of the most powerful demons. Hiranyakashipu, nobody else could kill, right? So many other demons like that, Krishna killed. Ravana, with all the demigods were running away in fear. So in this way, you can see some of his pastimes. When Krishna was a child, he was just a mere child. He chastised the Kaliya serpent. It's a huge, monstrous, many-hooded serpent. And then he lifted the Govardhan hill just to protect all of them. And not only he lifted, he was only around 7 years around there. And he lifted it with his left hand, with his little finger. And he kept that hill above him for 7 days and 7 nights, just in that position. We cannot even lift a mushroom and keep ourselves in that position for 1 hour. What to speak of 7 hours? But Krishna easily held that stance for 7 days and 7 nights in the Govardhan Leela. Okay, and we have the Leela where Bali Maharaj, Krishna came as Trivikrama, and he begged for charity from Bali Maharaj, and Bali Maharaj told me. Then he said, "What do you want?" Then Vamana Dev, he said, "I only want 3 steps." So then the first step, he covered the entire lower planetary systems. The second step, he covered the entire upper planetary systems. The third step, he put it on Bali Maharaj's head. So this is the picture of Trivikrama. Vamana Dev, who covered the entire planetary systems. So he has the Virya, the most powerful personality. He killed Kamsa. He killed so many other powerful demons, right? So like that. And we have Yasasha. Yasha means fame. Because he shows the greatest fame. Krishna he's the most popular person in all of creation because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? Everybody knows him. They may not know that he may be God. Not all of them may know, but they've all heard about Krishna. In fact, Krishna he's 5,000 years, his appearance was 5,000 years ago on earth, yet people are still celebrating his birthday, right? Janmashtami. So, and yet his Vrindavan is still very popular. Tourists go every year. This is during Kartik. The temples are crowded, right? Therefore Krishna is extremely popular, but that's just this world. And even in this world, Krishna's pastime is there in other countries as well, outside India. If you go to Europe, if you look at Eastern Europe law, there is a personality there which is who is worshipped, called Krishna. And even Christos comes from the word Krista. Krista is coming from Krishna, and we all know Jesus also went to India. So that's just this world. But still, even if you do not know Krishna directly, people know him indirectly as God, right? So everybody accepts there is God. So he is, and in other planetary systems, other than Earth, in all the higher planetary systems and the lower planetary systems, everybody knows about Krishna. So he has all fame. And he is also having unrivaled beauty, extremely beautiful. So there are many instances like this. So, when Krishna lifted the Govardhan hill and remained that way for 7 days and 7 nights, all the gopis and the gopas and Nanda Maharaj and and all the villagers in Gokul, all the villagers there, they they were simply entranced by the beauty of Krishna. When Krishna lifted the hill, they were so amazed, and they were and in that position, in that Tribhanga position, Krishna is bending his leg, he's bending his waist, and in this way he's holding his flute, and then in this left hand he's holding the hill, and then he's smiling so beautifully. And in that way, they are just entranced. So for 7 days and 7 nights, they were simply looking at Krishna, completely raptured in attention. This comes from a pastime. There was once the gopis, they wanted to see Krishna so much that, when because their eyes, they will stare at Krishna, but their eyes will start blinking. And when their eyes starts blinking, they start cursing the creator Brahma. They said, what kind of a creator is this Brahma, that he's imperfect. He cannot create eyes which can continuously stare. Why did he have to create this blinking phenomenon? Because each blink, it's like 12 years. For these people, just one blink of the eye, it's like as if 12 years have passed. They cannot hold on not looking at Krishna. So to please them, Krishna has given them this blessing that he's used this Leela in a way that all the gopis and the gopas, their hearts are fully satisfied by simply looking at Krishna. For 7 days and 7 nights, they didn't even eat. They didn't eat, they didn't sleep, they didn't talk to, they were just engrossed in looking at Krishna. That was the beauty of Krishna. And even when Krishna came as Lord Ramachandra, here we have a picture of Lord Ram. In fact, Lord Ram is also a very, the full potency of beauty of Lord Ram is extremely, extremely beautiful. Lord Ram was known for. And when he went to the forest, in fact, he met a group of sages, a large group of sages in the forest. And the sages were saying, they were entranced. They were all fully entranced by the beauty of Lord Ram. And then they were so entranced, these are sages, they started thinking about having conjugal relationship, like husband and wife relationship with Lord Ram. But Lord Ram said, in this life, I am Ekapatni, you are all sages, you are all men. So what will you do? In your next life, just to please you, in your next life, I will come as Krishna, and you all will, all of you who will come as some of the gopis in Vrindavan. And in this way, I can have this relationship with you. So he satisfied their desires. So that was Lord Ram. So even the name Krishna means akarshana. Karshana means to attract. So Krishna means one who is the reservoir of all attraction. So it comes from the root word krashna. Krashna means to attract. And the word Krishna therefore means the reservoir of all attraction, the source of all attraction. So that is his name as Krishna. And one more opulence, the fifth opulence, because he shows the greatest intelligence, jnana. So, Krishna actually spoke the entire Bhagavad Gita, which is glorified as the cream of all the Upanishads, isn't it? So who else but God alone who can actually do this? In fact, it was Krishna who first imparted the knowledge. We heard about this in chapter 4, how he gave this knowledge to Vivaswan, the sun god, right? But even before that, at the dawn of creation, it was Krishna who gave the knowledge to Lord Brahma through the flute, as Gayatri mantra. So that knowledge in the Gayatri mantra expanded within Brahmas. It's like a seed. Krishna planted the seed of knowledge in Brahma, and it expanded and expanded and expanded. And in this way, Brahma had full understanding. So Krishna is the source of all jnana. So you can see here how Brahma is offering prayers to Supreme Lord. Brahma is considered the topmost Brahman, right? Amongst all Brahmanas, he's the topmost. And his 4 heads, he's constantly chanting the 4 Vedas in his 4 heads. So, but still, he is offering his respectful obeisances to Krishna. And the last opulence, so we talked about wealth, fortune, Aishwarya. Then we talked about Shreya, beauty. Then we talked about Viraya, power and strength. Then we talked about fame. Okay, now we talked about fame. I forgot to change this. This is not fame. We talked about fame, who's the most popular. And we talked about jnana, intelligence. And the last one is vairagya. This is also an opulence. Vairagya means renunciation, completely renounced. He is not affected by anything. Wouldn't we all want that? Not to be affected by anything, to be so completely detached and aloof that nothing in this world can affect us, right? Sometimes, if we have children, our children, if they get sick or they're not, something happens to them, we are always worried. Oh, I'm worrying. So therefore, this is due to attachment. So Krishna, he's having everything, but at the same time, he's completely detached. He's not attached to any of his opulences. So he can exist completely alone. So therefore, he is known as Atma Rama. One of Krishna's names is Atma Rama. Atma Rama means he doesn't need anything or anyone to completely enjoy Ananda, bliss. So he only needs himself. Therefore, Atma Rama, by himself, within himself, he is fully satisfied. So that is a very special ability, Vairagya. So we can see how, even though Krishna is God, right, he came and acted, he didn't mind coming and acting as a mere chariot driver. Now, during those days, when the warrior is in the chariot, how does the warrior tell the chariot driver to turn right or to turn left or to go faster, right? When we drive our car, do we tell the car turn left, car turn right? No, right? What we do, we use our foot to press the pedal, accelerator, to whether to go faster or lower, and we use our hands to turn the wheel. So in the midst of war, when Arjuna is fighting, how does he instruct Krishna? So actually, the charioteer, the warriors used to use their foot to actually tap the chariot driver, and they will tap on using the right foot on the right shoulder, and then the chariot driver will know, okay, I need to turn right. And then Arjuna will, the warrior will tap the left foot, and then the chariot driver will know, okay, I have to turn left. If he taps hard, then he knows I have to go fast, jerk. If he taps slowly, that means he has to go slow. So that's the understanding. And can you imagine the Supreme Personality of Godhead being tapped by the foot of Arjuna to go here and there? So that was the renunciation of the Supreme Lord. He doesn't, to him, it's like, how the child climbs on top of the father, and the father doesn't mind if the child's leg is touching his head or whatever. But the same person will not allow other people to touch him with the feet, isn't it? So therefore, this is Vairagya. Okay? So we can understand this. These are the opulences of Krishna. So to continue with the flow of the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 12, so we talked about Sarva Karana Karanam, how Krishna is the cause of all causes. So verse 3 to 6 will discuss about Krishna being the cause of everything. So some of the Bhagavan features are mentioned over there, how we just discussed just now. Okay. After that, Krishna goes on to speak about Ananya Bhakti. Ananya means pure Bhakti. So we talked about devotion, the Bhakti path or the Bhakti marg. So in the Bhakti pathway, There is mixed bhakti and there is pure bhakti. So we heard about that also in the previous chapters. You remember in chapter 9, Krishna talked about the four types of people who approach him and the four types of people who do not approach him. So one of the four who do approach him, one of them is those who are in distress. So, and then those who are inquisitive, or those who, the one in distress, one who's inquisitive, one who is after something. That means he wants something, right? So out of these, right, only the last one is actually qualified for Ananya Bhakti, which is the Jnani, one in knowledge. The others, they want something from Krishna in return also. Okay. Yes, they have bhakti, but at the same time, they expect Krishna to also, take care of me, to protect me, and things like that. So that is there. But the Ananya Bhakta, the pure devotee, they don't care what happens to them. They are at such a level of devotion that they only want to please Krishna. They exist only to please Krishna. So this is a very high level of bhakti. So even bhakti, in the bhakti path, there are several stages. So some of these stages we will talk about in later chapters, in chapter 12, right? But right now, the concept is introduced, Ananya Bhakti, from verse 7 to 11. So we will look at one of those verses, chapter 10, verse 8. Aham, this is a very nice verse. And actually, this is a very famous verse. In this chapter 10, we have what we call the Chatur Sloka. Chatur Sloka means the 4 verses of the Gita, which act somewhat like a summary of the entire Bhagavad Gita. Or not really summary, it's more like the key verses of the entire Bhagavad Gita. So there are 4 verses which are considered key verses. So the first of that 4, Chatur Sloka, Chatur means 4, Shloka means verse, is this one. So we should memorize this if we can. Aham Sharvashya Prabhavo Mata Sarvam Pravartate Iti Matva Bhajante Mam Buddha Bhava Samanvitaha. So the meaning is, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. So this we already knew, right? In chapter 5 also Krishna said, right? Bhuktaram Yajna Tapasham Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He says, I am the source of everything. And he also said before, everything emanates from me. But now he continues the next point. The wise. So who are the wise? The wise are those who are pure devotees, Ananya Bhaktas. Why are they pure devotees? Because they perfectly know this at this point about Krishna, that he is the source of everything, that he's the ultimate summum bonum, right? And what do? Because they know this knowledge. They don't go about their jobs as usual, right? They don't do normal things. Therefore, what they do, they engage in my devotional service. Because they know this and because they understand this fully, they are completely dedicating their time to devotional service and worshipping me with all their hearts. So that is one of the definitions of Ananya Bhakta. And then we talk about the second Chatur Sloka. So we're going to talk about all 4 of the Chatur Sloka, right? The second one is Madchita Madgata Prana Bodayantaha Parasparam Katayantas Chamam Nityam Dusyanti Cha Ramanti Cha. So this is one of my favorite verses. So the meaning is very nice and beautiful, and the verse is also very beautiful, I felt. So what's the meaning? The meaning is, the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Krishna says. So he is further defining what is this Ananya Bhakta. What is a Bhakta and what's the Ananya Bhakta? That means the pure devotee. He is always thinking of Krishna. He's always remembering Krishna, right? Their lives are fully devoted to my service. So these are very advanced devotees. They have already gone through this bhakti path and they have now fully dedicated their life in the service of Krishna. And they derive. So why do they do all these things? Why do they dedicate Is it because they are frustrated with their material life? No, that's not the reason. So that was what Arjuna wanted to do right in the beginning in chapter 2, chapter 1, remember? Okay. But this is because they have already left the other trapeze and hung on to the other swing. So they derive great satisfaction and bliss. They are so blissful in Krishna's service, from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So katayantascha mam nityam. What are they doing? They are always speaking about my glories. Kata, my leelas, my pastimes, my glories. So this is the occupation of a pure devotee. The pure devotee is always remembering and always speaking. Kata, giving kata, right? Tusyanticha ramanticha. And they tell this to one another. They are always telling this. So that's what devotees do. They are giving classes and they are hearing classes and they are always having discussion formally or informally. And they derive great bliss. Ramanticha. So a lot of bliss is obtained by these devotees. So that is the definition of one of the definitions which define the pure devotee. So we don't have to wait until we are pure devotees. Even now, as we are hearing, those days, our grandparents and all that, they used to hear Ramayana and they used to hear Mahabharata, and they used to derive lots of pleasure in hearing only those things, right? There was no TV at the time to distract, and people were living a much simpler life, and they were able to derive great bliss during this time. And people were much better in character also, those of them who were doing this at that time. So now we come to the third chatur sloka, 10:10. So then now Krishna is in the last two chatur slokas. Krishna will tell about his reciprocation. Now we have understood what the pure devotees are doing. Now what is Krishna doing for them? His reciprocation with these pure devotees. So the verse is Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. So he says, to those who are constantly devoted, so the key word, constantly devoted to serving me, this is a very advanced level of devotion already, pure devotion, pure bhakti, with love. That means not out of duty alone. In the beginning, it's out of duty, maybe, but as we do, love starts to blossom and then it fructifies eventually. So to these people who are doing that, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. So Krishna gives them the ticket back home. He gives them the understanding on what needs to be done for them to come back to him. How to remember the Supreme Lord at the end, right? That's the secret which Krishna will impart to these people. And this is the last verse. So we may ask, how does Krishna appear in front of my eyes and give me? Or is he going to send by, parcel service? How is he going to give me this understanding? So then Krishna completes that Chatur Sloki. Tesham evanukampartam aham ajnana jam tama nasayami atma bhavastho jnana deepena bhasvata. So this verse is what I like to call the Deepavali verse. So usually during Deepavali, I like to give this to people as a greeting card. I like to put this verse. Why? Because jnana deepena bhasvata. Meaning is to show them special mercy. I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So how Krishna gives this understanding of how we can attain him? Because Krishna is already with us. He's not very far away. Actually, Krishna is not very far away. He is actually within us, within our hearts, right? As Paramatma, and he's everywhere. Just like Hiranyakashipu asked Prahlad Maharaj, is he in this pillar? Prahlad said, yes, Father, he is in this pillar also. He's everywhere. So to show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, what does Krishna do? He destroys the ignorance, the darkness of ignorance, right? using the lamp of knowledge. He shines the lamp of knowledge within the heart. So by Krishna's mercy, the deeper purports and the deeper understanding is revealed within our heart. So this is how Krishna reciprocates, and in this way the jiva is also in great bliss. So that's what happens. So slightly very different compared to the Ashtanga Yogi, slightly different. So this Mataji is Yamuna Mataji. She is one of the dearmost disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and I just thought I'll put her picture here. So it's nice. She's definitely a pure devotee. She's no longer with us. She has left the world. There's a book about her actually. You can read how she is so devoted to Srila Prabhupada and how she used to sacrifice so much for the movement. So then Arjuna now, after hearing all this about the pure devotee and about, he was keeping quiet, chapter 9 he was hearing, chapter 8 he was hearing. So Krishna was talking about bhakti, he was talking about himself, he was telling about his glories, he was telling about how he is controlling everything, he's the cause of all causes. Then he spoke about the pure devotee, and then he spoke about how the pure devotees are always thinking about Krishna. So after all this, Arjuna starts to speak. Arjuna Uvacha, he's completely overwhelmed. He says, Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam, Adi Devam Ajam Vibhum. So, what does this mean? Arjuna is telling, Oh Krishna, I completely accept whatever you're saying, right? You are the Param Brahma. So there is Brahman and there is Parabrahman. So Arjuna is acknowledging, yes, I completely accept whatever you say. You are that Parabrahman. And you are the Param Dhamma. You are the ultimate goal. I accept this. And then he says, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan. So he says, you are the purest. Pavitram means purest. You are the purest of the pure, right? And you are the goal of all devotion. Paramam Bhavan. Purusham, you are the supreme person. Purusham Shashvatam Divyam, and you are Divyam, transcendental, beyond matter. And you are Adi Devam. You are the Lord of all the Devas. You are the original Lord, right? Ajam, you are not born. You don't take birth. You are always there. You're eternal, right? And Vibhum, you are so great, extremely large. Whereas we are Anu, the Supreme Lord is Vibhum. So this is a very nice verse also, where Arjuna is completely accepting Krishna's supremacy, and he has accepted all that Krishna is saying. And then he gives the next verse. Ahustvam rishaya sarve devarishir naradas ashito devalo vyasha swayam chaiva bravisi me. So Arjuna is saying, not only I accept whatever you're saying, before me, other people have also accepted you as the supreme, right? All the great sages confirm this truth about you. Who are these great sages, right? Rishaya, all the Rishaya, Sarve means all the Rishis, they also confirm this truth about you. Tvam means you. And who are these people? Example, Krishna Arjuna says, Deva Rishi, the great Deva Rishi, Narada. Narada is one of them. Samo, Asita is another Rishi. Devala, another Rishi. Vyasadev, another Rishi. Vyasa is the one who compiled all the Vedas, right? So these are all examples of Rishis who have also said the same thing about you. And now you are saying all these things to me. Swayam Chaiva Bravisi Me. Swayam means now you, Swa Ayam, you are telling me all this same truth to me. So Arjuna is accepting this. And then he continues in the next verse. Indeed, you alone know yourself by your own internal potency, O Supreme Person, O Purushottama. Arjuna again addresses Krishna as Purushottama. O origin of everything, origin of all living entities. Bhuta Bhavana, that's the name. That name means origin of all Bhutas. Bhutas means living entities. Bhavana means shelter, the shelter of all the living entities. Lord of all beings, Bhutesha. Not only he's the shelter, he's the Lord. Esha means controller. God of gods, Deva Deva, Lord of the universe, Jagat Pate. Pate means Lord, right? Jagat means universe. So these are some of the names Krishna is giving for, Arjuna is giving to Krishna, because he has completely, at this point, he has completely accepted whatever Krishna has said. Now we will hear more. We have heard so far about Sarva Karana Karanam, how Krishna is the source of everything, how Krishna describes pure devotee, Ananya Bhakti. And over there we heard about how firm faith is the key. We heard in chapter 9 that one needs to have faith in the path of bhakti. In the path of jnana, there is no necessity, because one is very much dependent in his own ability, right? He's trying to mechanically practice different postures and breathing and all. That's in the jnana yoga pathway. But Krishna says in the bhakti path, there is one important quality. The important quality is, one, you cannot have envy. We heard that in yesterday's class, right? We cannot have envy, because this is the path of surrender, right? And at the same time, one has to have faith. So faith is the beginning. So how to make that faith stronger? So therefore, Krishna in this chapter, he's telling Arjuna how we can make that faith stronger. He's saying, hear more about my glories, hear more about my leelas, hear more about my opulences. So firm faith of Krishna's opulence and position is key, not in key, is key, right? So the more we hear about the greatness of the Lord, the more we hear about his opulent position, the more our faith strengthens. So that's why we should hear Shravanam. The process of hearing is very, very, very important. And as our faith develops, slowly we develop Ananya Bhakti, or pure devotion. And then Krishna defines that pure devotion. What are the devotees doing? What are their activities? And then Krishna talks about his reciprocation. This was the Chatur Sloki, which we talked about just now. Okay. And Arjuna, and then after that, we heard about how Arjuna accepts Krishna. So 10:12 to 10:15, Arjuna accepts and reconfirms Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So to continue, now Krishna, to address this point, firm faith of Krishna's opulence and position is key. So therefore, to further strengthen the faith, Krishna starts to reveal his opulences in brief. There are unlimited opulences of Krishna. So many ways Krishna can reveal his opulences. So he's starting to tell Arjuna how Arjuna can know about Krishna's opulence and how Arjuna can remember Krishna. So each time Arjuna looks at any of these things, he will be able to remember Krishna. So these are called Krishna's Vibhutis. So you can see here 10:16 all the way to 10:42, about almost 30 verses. Krishna talks all about his glories, his mysticism. So basically, it can be divided into 3 sections. The first part is from 16 to 18. Arjuna is asking, how can I remember you? Please tell me things which helps me to remember you. I understand that you are the Supreme Lord. He already said that. So when Arjuna further asks Krishna, help me to remember you better, help me to remember you further. So to that question, therefore, Krishna starts revealing his vibhutis. He talks about his limitless vibhutis. So knowing why we want to know the vibhutis, so that we can remember Krishna better. Krishna Smaranam. Smaranam means to remember. And then he begins to talk about limitless vibhutis of Krishna, 10:19 to 40. So almost 21, this is 21 verses, he talks about his vibhutis. So we don't have time to go through each and every one of them. So you can read it on your own, but I have saved the trouble a little for you by putting them in a table. So it's an easy thing for you to remember. But once we go through these vibhutis, Krishna summarizes them in the last two verses. So we'll come to that. So he begins his vibhutis in this verse 10:19. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Hantate Kata Yisyami Divya Hi Atma Vibhutayah Pradhanyatha Kuru Shreshta Nasti Anto Vistarasya Me. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, yes, when Arjuna asks him, please tell me more about your opulences so that I can remember you, Krishna says, yes, I will tell you of my splendorous manifestations. He's talking about his splendor. But only those which are prominent, O Arjuna, he says, because indeed my opulence is limitless. So I can go on and on. In fact, it's described in a different verse somewhere, not in Bhagavad Gita, but in another scripture about Ananta Sesh. You know, Vishnu lies on, Narayana lies down on Ananta Sesh, right? The great many-headed serpent. So Ananta Sesh, actually, he spends his time, he has many heads. He has unlimited heads, actually. So each of his heads, he has a mouth. So he's glorifying Krishna with each of his mouths. Unlimited mouths he's glorifying. And each time he speaks, he doesn't say the same thing. He says something different. So something different is continuously coming from Ananta's mouth. And he has thousands of mouths. But still, he's not completed the glorification of Krishna. He's still going on glorifying Krishna in different ways. So that's why he's called limitless opulence. So that's the idea. So again, why we want to know? We want to know so that we can strengthen our faith and we can understand that Krishna is that supreme person and helps us to surrender to him. And it will help us to remember him. Okay. So Krishna starts saying, he tells Arjuna, oh Arjuna, if you were to compare, he's giving analogies, he's giving example and analogy, so that Arjuna can remember better. For example, among all the lights, among all the things that have light, I am like the sun. What can beat the sun, isn't it? The sun is the brightest thing we know in existence, right? And then he says, among all the stars in the night sky, when we look at all the stars, where does our eye go to first? It goes to the moon, isn't it? So amongst all the stars, I am the moon, Krishna says. Among all the mountains, I am Meru. So Meru is a mountain which is in the Bhumandala. We cannot see it. It's a subtle mountain. And it's supposed to be very tall, as high as almost going all the way to Brahmaloka. So it's in the center of the universe. So this is what the scriptures tell us, Meru. Amongst all the immovable objects, I am the Himalayas. So in this world, Himalayas is the biggest mountain range, the largest structure in the world, you could say, is the Himalaya, isn't it? So amongst all of the immovable things, I'm Himalayas. And then Krishna continues, among all the water bodies, I am like the ocean. Among all the trees, I am the banyan tree. So the banyan tree, Arasamaram, that is a very holy tree, and it's the largest tree. It's very huge. The width, just one tree can cover many acres because it grows roots down from the branches. If you have seen a banyan tree. Amongst all the rivers, I am the Ganga. Amongst all the months of the year, I am Margasrirsha. In Tamil, we say Margali month. Amongst all the seasons, I am spring. Then he talks, and then he continues like that. Then he gives examples from animals also. Among all the horses, I am Uchaishrava. So this is a very special horse which came out from the ocean of milk. When Samudra Manthan, the pastime where the devas and the demons join forces to churn the ocean of milk so that they can get the nectar of immortality. This is why the Kumbh Mela is being held anyway. So anyway, many things came out of it. One of them was Lakshmi Devi also came out from that ocean of milk. So like that, the horse Uchashrava is a very, very special horse. And then there is, amongst all elephants, I am Airavata. Airavata is also one of those things that came out from that ocean of milk. But Lord Indra took Airavata. So like that, everybody got gifts. It's like a Santa Claus bag. So in a Santa Claus bag, the bag was opened and many, many gifts came out of it. So everybody got something out of it. So then Airavat is a very special elephant, Lord Indra's elephant carrier, and he can fly, and he's white in color and is very, very large, and he has 4 tusks. So that is Airavata. Amongst all the cows, I'm Mother Surabhi. She is the original cow of all creation. Amongst all the sarpas means snakes, serpents. I am Vasuki. Vasuki is a very, very huge snake, right? And she was she was used as a rope to churn the ocean of milk. Amongst all the nagas, I am Anantasesh. Amongst all the fishes, I am like the shark. So when this is like the megalodon type of shark which used to exist in previous time, it's larger than the whale that time. Amongst all the beasts, I am like the lion. Amongst all the birds, I am Garuda. So like, it's not that he himself is all these things. It's not like the lion is Krishna. It's like Krishna is trying to say, I am like, if anything is strong, if anything is powerful, if anything is great, if anything is wonderful in this world, you can remember me in that. So what he's trying to say is, for example, if we meet someone very, very beautiful, very, very powerful, we can remember Krishna in that person. So this is a way for us to remember the Supreme Lord in everything, right? So when we see the lion, when we see banyan tree, it reminds us of Krishna, like that. And in beings, amongst munis, I am Vyasadev. Amongst Deva Rishis, I am Narada. Amongst priests, I'm Brihaspati. So indirectly, we can also understand who are the topmost in all of these categories. So we can understand that also. Among perfected beings, I'm Kapila Dev. Among great thinkers, I'm Sukracharya. Sukracharya is Sukra, Venus. Amongst Devas, I'm Indra. Amongst Rudras, I'm Shiva. Amongst generals, I'm Kartikeya, the greatest general, Kartikeya. Amongst judges, I'm Yama. Amongst aquatics, I'm Varuna. Amongst warriors, I'm Ram. So Rama means Parashuram. It can also mean Ramachandra. Both are expert in weaponry. No one could defeat them. Among creators, I am Brahma. So he is the chief creator in this universe. So therefore, he is like giving analogies to all of this. So if Brahma can create, it's because of Krishna's Vibhuti, power. If Yama is an excellent judge, Yamaraj, it's because of Krishna's Vibhuti. So in the same way, we can understand all the ability in all these beings is due to Krishna's Vibhutis, potencies. So then, in general, also some of the points that he mentions, continuing his Vibhuti. Among senses, I am the mind. So we in the material science only recognizes 5 senses: touch, taste, sight, hearing, and sound. But Vedic scripture recognizes the mind as the 6th. We heard about the 6th sense, right? So this is long time ago. We already knew about it. Mind, the mind is the king of the senses. So amongst the senses, I am the mind. Among poetry, I am the Gayatri Mantra, because the Gayatri Mantra has a very beautiful poetry meter, nice to hear. Among sciences, I am the Atma Tattva, because there are many types of science. There is Ayurveda, the science of health, and then there is the science of building, Stapati Veda, and then there is the science of fighting, Dhanur Veda, and then there is the science of dancing, Nritya Veda, entertainment and all that. And then there is the science of physics and all these things. But amongst them, the king of sciences is the Atma Tattva, the science of the soul, which Krishna gave to Arjuna in chapter 2. So the modern scientists haven't approached this yet. They cannot understand this yet. Among vibrations, sound vibrations, I am Om. Among Vedas, I am the Samaveda, which is the topmost. Among subduers, I am the time. I am time. Subduers means if there's anything that can completely defeat someone or an enemy, it is time, right? It's the ultimate defeater. Alexander the Great can say, I've conquered, but where is Alexander now? He is nothing but bones, because time has conquered even Alexander the Great. Napoleon Bonaparte, also conquered by time. So time is the greatest conqueror. So among conquerors, I am time. Among purifiers, I am the wind. So we can understand the wind can also purify. Drying process is mainly done by the wind. So that is the idea. Among secrets, I am silence. So there's a lot of wisdom here. If we go through this entire, I'm just covering some of them. There are others also. So we can understand a lot of things about these general points or the beings just by looking at this. So then Krishna gives some few important analogies, vibhutis, which I thought I should put the verse directly so that you can understand. So one of the vibhutis, Krishna says, of all creations and beings, I am the beginning, I am the middle, and I am the end. And then he also says, there is no being, moving or non-moving, that can exist without me. So Krishna is saying, I am the seed of all existence. Without me, there cannot be any existence. So that is also one of the vibhutis Krishna says. Those are important vibhutis which I thought I wanted to say. And here is a very important vibhuti which Krishna mentions in 10:25. He says, Yajnanam japa yajno ashmi. So Krishna says, among all sacrifices, yajnanam, among all sacrifices, I am the japa. Japa means chanting. I am the japa yajno. And that chanting, the king of all yagyas is chanting, and that is me. So Krishna is saying. So here is another indication that chanting is the yuga dharma, very, very important process in spiritual life. Amongst all other processes, this is the king. So that is basically the chapter 10. We have covered the vibhutis already. But before we go through our takeaway, let me just mention the summary. Krishna himself summarizes the vibhutis in chapter 10 in the last two verses. Right? So here I am putting here 10:41. Yat yat vibhutimat sattvam Shrimat urjitam evava tat tat eva vagachatvam mama tejo amsa sambhavam. So Krishna is saying, I am giving you just examples. There are so many. My vibhutis are limitless. So I'm just mentioning some important points for you to understand and to remember, Arjuna. Krishna is telling, right? And he says, therefore, in summary, you can understand a very important point. So I'm going to summarize this point. So the key takeaway, I haven't translated this. I'm keeping this for the last point. So the key takeaways here is, first we understood Ishvara Parama Krishna. Krishna is the supreme and Sarva Karana Karanam, cause of all causes, right? And then we heard about Ananya Bhakti, the pure devotee, and how Krishna reciprocates with the pure devotee. And now this is the translation of this verse, which is the summary of chapter 10. So Krishna says, among all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations, if at all there are anything beautiful, if you see anything glorious, if you see anything which is opulent, understand, O Arjuna, that it springs, that all these springs from but a spark of my splendor, Krishna says. So all these beautiful, opulent, or glorious creations are nothing but a spark of Krishna's splendor. So if we can remember this, this is a key important point. If we can remember this, then we can learn to remember Krishna in everything. Just like the gopis. The gopis were so in love with Krishna that even when Krishna was not in their presence, whenever the gopis used to move, they will see the tamala tree. The tamala tree is blackish. So when they see the tamala tree, they will think this is Krishna, and they will go and hug the tamala tree. So that is the level of extreme, that kind of love is called prema. First time we are mentioning that word here, prema bhakti. So we won't talk about that now, but here are some of the tips on how we can achieve this prema bhakti. This is the path of bhakti. Like in the path of yoga, in the jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, we already heard what we need to do, right? We have to go to a secluded place, we have to sit in posture. So now this is the path of bhakti. These are some of the things that one should do. Okay, we can learn to see God in everyone, that we already heard before, because Paramatma is in every heart. We can also learn to see God in everything beautiful, in everything wonderful, in everything which is attractive to us. Like if we like to hear music, learn to hear Krishna in that music, right? Even whatever lyrics there may be, try to dovetail those lyrics towards glorifying the Supreme Lord. Try to dovetail those lyrics towards glorifying the Supreme Lord. So in the same way, whatever that we are doing, if anything is tasty, if anything is wonderful, remember the taste is due to Krishna's potency. So this is a practice, right? So that is the key takeaways for today. So there was a glorification about chanting in this verse also, right? Amongst all yajnanam, I am japa, right? Krishna says. So we will end with another glorification of chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So this is a continuation of the Sikshashtakam verse. Yesterday, we introduced the first verse of the Sikshashtakam. I was mentioning this verse was left by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is none other than Krishna himself. And it consists of 8 verses only. So the first one, yesterday we talked about the glory, Cheto Darpanam Arjunam Bhava Mahadavagni Nivapanam, how all the good qualities can first, all the bad qualities are destroyed, and then we are saved from the burning forest fire, and then how good qualities starts blossoming within our heart, and then how we start, this is the king of knowledge, and how we develop bliss each time we take part in this process. So all glories, and every day we bathe in this process, and all glories to this Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtan. So this is the second verse today. Nam namakari bahuda nija sarva shaktis tatrarpita niyamita smarane nakalaha etadrishi tava kripa bhagavan mamapi durdaivam idrashamihaja ninanuragaha. So this verse basically means, there are no even hard and fast rules. Namna Makari, you have so many names. Namnam Akari Bahuda, so many, right, names. And you have invested all your energy and your potency and your vibhutis and your shaktis within that name. Nija Sharva Shaktis. All the energies are invested inside that name. Tatrarpita Niyamita, but yet there are not even any strict rules for us to follow in order for us to say these names of yours. Tatrarpita Niyamita Smarane, to remember and to say them, na kalaha, no rules, no rules or regulations. So it becomes easy. There are no qualifications for us to chant this Maha Mantra. All we need is faith. Etadrishi tava kripa bhagavan mamapi. So, this is the same point which I mentioned. Durdaivam idrasham ihajani nanuragaha. Unfortunately, I have no attraction for these names. So this is a verse. So it's a very nice verse glorifying the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So we should develop that attraction. So why we are not getting that attraction? So that's a long story. We will talk about it at another time. But we should learn to develop that attraction. So let's just finish with this. Jaya Sri Krishna, join me and say it together with me. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Tat Sat.